Bills Mafia on today's Air Raid Hour pregame. We'll be breaking down what we expect to see from the Bills today as they take on the Miami Dolphins. Injury updates, key matchups, our pregame superlatives are all coming up. But first,
Welcome to the Air Raid Hour, a Cover One Network podcast. Here are your hosts, Judge Mathis and Tilt Money.
welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Air Raid Hour, brought to you by the Cover One Sports Network and Picasso's Pizza. My name is Steve Mathis. You can find me on Twitter at the Bills Guys. And unfortunately, not joined as always by my co-host Dave Tilton today. He will be back as soon as he can be, but looking through comment section, you're going to have to carry me today as my number two. And we already got some guys coming in. James Sinclair saying in an interview with Andrew Whitworth this week, who did Jared Verse credit with taking him under his wing and showing him the ropes and becoming a professional? None other than Michael Hoyt. And man, what a brutal loss for the Buffalo Bills. Just want to take a minute to wish Michael Hoyt all the best and hope he gets back to what he was looking like he was going to be for this football team, for both our sake and for his sake, because I think he deserves the recognition that was about to come his way, not just as a tough as nails dude, which he got that recognition this week, but as a football player, because he was balling out and was making a huge impact on the Buffalo Bills defense. So shout out to him, and hopefully we get him back next season. We also got Charles G coming in saying, currently on one of several party buses filled with Bills fans heading to the game. We are taking over Hard Rock today. Go Bills. And as always, I for anyone going to a road game, I wish you guys, number one, enjoy it. And I hope you are. It sounds like you are. And number two, I really hope the Buffalo Bills put a quality product on the field for you today. I was a Bills season ticket holder for 10 years back when I lived in Buffalo from like 06 to 16. And every year our tailgate crew would go to one away game per year. And man, did we have to put up with some absolute stinkers. But the Saturday night before the game was always incredible. Bills Mafia taking over whatever town it was. And then Sunday morning up until the game was also usually pretty incredible too. Saw some real stinkers back in the day. I remember being in Pittsburgh for EJ Manuel's first game back from injury, where he laid an egg. I think the best road game I ever went to was the Cleveland Browns game, where the Bills won, and it was awesome. But CJ Spiller also broke his collarbone, so you had that bummer of news once the game was over. And I was at the Leos McKelvin fumble game, so that was a lot of fun as well. So enjoy it, Charles. Hopefully your luck on the road is better than mine, and more like Dave's, who was at the Panthers game 2 weeks ago. Sweet Spikes coming in saying good morning, let's go Bills. And it is an interesting morning. Carl Tolman coming in saying good morning, Judge, let's squish those fish. I don't know if anyone saw the news that just broke, but Tom Pelissero reported that the two best offers at the trade deadline for Quinnen Williams, who ultimately got traded to the Dallas Cowboys, and Jalen Waddle, who did not get traded, who the Buffalo Bills are playing against today, were from the Buffalo Bills. So Brandon Beane was, in fact, big game hunting at the trade deadline. I think he does understand the sense of urgency and maybe the window that this football team is in, and maybe needing that star power to get them over the top. But unfortunately, the Jets and the Dolphins, two of the worst teams in football this season, were not willing to trade with a divisional rival. So that one's going to sting and probably sit with Bills fans for a while, as, man, how awesome would it have been to add Quinnen Williams to the interior and then to eventually pair him with a Deion Walker and an Ed Oliver in the future? And how awesome would it have been to add a Jalen Waddle to this receiving core with Josh Palmer getting healthier and having Khalil Shakir in the slot and having a bunch of other guys like possibly a Keon Coleman if he didn't go in the deal as well. And, Samuel and more. And you could argue about how much they're paid and how much we invested in them, whatever. But just having another receiver in that room with Waddle's gravity and with Waddle's speed to go with what we already have, that would have been exciting as well. So unfortunate for the Buffalo Bills, but as our guy Merck on Twitter said smartly, like, that could be an indication of where Brandon Beane might be heading this next offseason for the Buffalo Bills, trying to add some star power. But if you're a team like the Buffalo Bills, now would have been the chance, and it was really unfortunate it was Miami and the Jets you had to deal with, because if you're the Buffalo Bills, you're going to be picking the back half of the draft. It's harder to find that talent in the back half of the draft. I know I kind of roll my eyes when Brandon says it, because there are some guys that he passes on some years to take positions of need, but it's like, all right, it is in fact tougher to get a stud in the back half of the first round than it is the top 5. And teams are more hopeful in March, so it's harder to make a trade. I think there are trades, and there are big trades in March, but like last offseason, there's a reason why the Jets and the Dolphins weren't making those two available. They were hopeful for things to come in the future of their franchise. So just an unfortunate there. I think if one of those teams were out of the division, the Buffalo Bills maybe could have swung and probably would have swung a pretty big trade. But alas, we are on to Miami now. And we need to talk about this game. And I think the number one thing as we discuss this game is it'll be really interesting to see how the Buffalo Bills respond this week. I know they won last week, but when you look at that game, that was a knockdown, drag-out fight against the Kansas City Chiefs. That drains a lot of you mentally, emotionally, preparing for that game, playing that game. The Bills ultimately came out the victors and came out with a laundry list of injuries as well. So this Dolphins game, a team that just fired their general manager, that probably should have fired their head coach, but probably didn't have anyone else competent on the staff they felt like they could put in charge, even though the reports are Mike McDaniel might survive. I don't see it, right? This game could be interesting for the Buffalo Bills this week. And you look at it and you look on offense and how we attack this Dolphins defense, and it's a beat up Miami defense that statistically is not very good to begin with. You look at the matchup and you're like, well, Ethan Bonner's at one corner and Jack Jones is at the other. Rasul Douglas is out. We should be able to attack one of those corners. Well, the one guy on the boundary you think would attack those corners, Josh Palmer, has an ankle sprain and he was LP all week, and we don't even know if he's going to be active today. So it's like, you don't really know if you have a guy who could step up and just exploit that, right? And take advantage of that. And it's like, oh, well, that's a bummer. We'll just go back to our bread and butter this year and we'll just run the ball down their throats. It's like, James Cook got dinged last week. Is James Cook going to be able to be the workhorse this week that he has been in week past? Now, I know he was smiling on Kay Adams and he was saying all the right things like he was going to play, but you know the Bills. Are the Bills going to want to go out there and run James Cook 25 times in this game? So you kind of lose, maybe, possibly, and again, we're just making predictions here. You don't know. Maybe he is fully fine and we just can't see it, right? You kind of lose a little bit of maybe of a fast fall there when you're talking about possibly projecting what could happen in this game. Then you go to the defensive side of the ball. They're like, well, let's just pressure the heck out of Tua, right? AJ Epinesa is out with a concussion. We already talked about Michael Hoyt. Bosa's dinged, and now you got that worry in the back of your head, like, are we overworking Bosa, and is Bosa going to get overworked? And this is Miami. We need Bosa later, and we can't even rest Bosa or do this with Bosa. So you have that thought going through your head. The IDL is still working to get back and healthy. We don't know if Daquan Jones is going to go in this game or not. And you got a secondary, which has a Taryn injury and has a Christian Benford injury. So you're finally like, cool. We finally get to unleash Maxwell Hairston. He gets that matchup with Jalen Waddle. And we're going to have Christian Benford on the other side. No, you're probably going to have Trey White on the other side this week. So if you are the Buffalo Bills, I expect them to win this game. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and predict the Buffalo Bills lose this game. I'm not going to make this pregame show like some sad conversation about how I think the Bills are going to get upset. Like, that's not going to happen. They should win this game. And quite frankly, I think this team is a dead team walking. The Buffalo Bills should do it handily. But I think there are signs there in this football game where this could be closer than I think some Bills fans are going to want it to be. So if you are scrolling on social media today during the game, which I've decided I don't think I'm going to do again this year. Like, I think I'm just done with social media during the game. I was very content and happy watching that Chiefs game without my phone and my smartwatch. I literally took both and I put them in a drawer, and I was like, I'm just going to watch the game. Just going to let it play out. And I think I'm very content doing that. Even though as a content creator, tweeting and stuff during games helps me, right? Build engagement and all those good things, but I'm willing to make that sacrifice for my mental health. So I'll probably be watching this game sans media device. Maybe I'll pop it at halftime, even though I did not pop it at halftime against the Chiefs because I was superstitious and we were doing well. So if we're doing well, I probably won't do that again. Some news just straight up on the game, right? Some general overall news for those of you who don't know yet. This game's 1 p.m. Classic 1 p.m. Bills Dolphins with Andrew Catalon, Charles Davis, Jason McCourty on the call. I kind of just, these games are so nostalgic to me now. Hearing, the voice of Andrew Catalon and Charles Davis and seeing the sun and that 1 p.m. feeling, knowing that there's a whole bunch of football afterwards as well. And the weather is going to be nice, right? We haven't really had any weather games this year for the Buffalo Bills. It's going to feel like it's in the 90s though, right? So a team that's kind of dinged up in the Bills, they're going to have to rotate a lot. So they're going to be rotating some guys that aren't second stringers, that are some third stringers, probably fourth stringers at this point, because it's going to feel like it's in the 90s and be humid there in Miami. Taking a look at the injury report, out is D. Eskridge, who's a special teamer for them. Doubtful is Rasul Douglas and Chop Robinson, so arguably their best corner this year and their best pass rusher. Questionable is two of their safeties in Ashton Davis and Ifeatu Melifonwu. Ollie Gordon is questionable, and Julian Hill, their blocking tight end, are questionable. They elevated Quentin Bell and Isaiah Johnson from the practice squad and signed a tight end from the practice squad in Rushi. For the Bills, out is Shaq Thompson again. That stinks, but Bills survived it this week, and I think they can survive it last week, and I think they can survive it this week, even though playing a guy like Tua, I think you would have liked a guy like Shaq Thompson there. Sort of read those quarterbacks' eyes, make those plays on the ball that he seems to be so good at. Epinesa out stinks. He's having a career year. I said last week, time to start talking extension with this guy. I would really love to lock up that entire edge room, Bosa included, and get Michael Hoyt back. And I'm really excited about what the Bills have going on the edge right now. So that's going to stink. Christian Benford, I don't think he plays. I'll pop up with a groin late in the week. I don't think he goes. Taron Johnson, I think he goes. It'll be really interesting to see Jones and Palmer, right? Like, Palmer was LP all week, but it's an ankle sprain. He's a boundary wide receiver. Does he play? Does he play a little bit? Like, maybe you just give him another week because it kind of worked last week. And I don't know. And then Daquan Jones, again, I don't know. He was a limited participant the last 2 days of practice this week. So the Bills elevated Dane Jackson and Bail Inspector. So the reaction on social media to the Bail Inspector elevation was as expected. Time is, in fact, a flat circle. But the big question today for the Bills, as we lead to kickoff and as we get an hour and a half into kickoff when the inactives are announced, or even as some of the reporters are reporting previous to the game, like Elena Getzenberg and all those people talking about who's on the field, who's working out, the question is going to be, do the Bills continue to be cautious with their injuries, or is there maybe a little bit more of a sense of urgency with the way New England is playing, with just how many other guys you have hurt too? I don't know. It's like that debate. Do we want to make it worse? Do we have to do what we have to do because of numbers? Like, those are the questions. Like, we've seen this year, the Bills literally dress Terrell Bernard just to say break glass in case of emergency. Are there some guys that do that with today? Like, I don't know. So that'll be really interesting. Before we get into the matchups, a quick word here from our sponsor. This show is brought to you by Picasso's Pizzas, with 4 convenient locations in Williamsville, West Seneca, Lancaster, and Blaisdell. Picasso's Pizza has been serving Buffalo's best pizza since 1980. Whether you're local or across the country, you can enjoy their delicious pizza delivered fresh to your door. Visit picassospizza.net to place your order today. Once again, that is picassospizza.net. All right, as we get into more of this pregame show, we're going to start with the Buffalo Bills offense versus the Miami Dolphins defense. Let's start with the Dolphins defense. Points allowed, 27 per game, 25th in the NFL. EPA per play, they're 29th. Passing the ball, they're 29th. Running the ball, they're 23rd. Their third down percentage this year, 43%. That's 25th in the NFL. Their red zone percentage this year, 56%, 10th in the NFL. So a lot better than some other parts of their defense. They run a little bit of man, middle of the pack in the NFL at 26%, but they do blitz a lot, 5th highest rate in the league at 34%. You saw the clear tendency in week 3 against Josh Allen. They blitzed him on half of his dropbacks, 47%. He was 8 of 14 for 53 yards and a touchdown on those blitzes. And when they didn't blitz him, he was 14 of 14 for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. So Miami had a recipe, and when they were able to do it, it worked. Not worked, but worked better than it did when they did not blitz him. But do they have the dogs to do it? Are they going to come with the same game plan? Like, these are things that you got to be able to look for when we play this football game. It'll be really interesting to see how the Dolphins try to approach someone they seemingly do not know how to defend. Because Josh Allen's career numbers, which I unfortunately don't have in front of me, I should have gotten them in front of me before the show started, are just disgusting. If Josh Allen played the Miami Dolphins every week, he would be the greatest football player of all time, and no one would come close to him. Just absolutely incredible numbers against the Miami Dolphins, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that continues today. When you look at the weakness of the West Miami defense, I mean, number one, statistically, they're not that great to begin with. That's number one, right? Like, all across the board. We talked about this in the offseason when we did our pregame, when our preseason shows. We talked about this in our week one matchup. Like, that's just a roster devoid of talent. It's not a surprise that Chris Greer was fired. Why people seem to think Mike McDaniel didn't have a hand in it, I don't know. And why he's still employed, I don't know. But that's just a defense that's really devoid of talent and constructed in a really wonky way. And that edge group is thin post Jalen Phillips trade. So now they got Bradley Chubb and Matthew Judon, who are older players, right? Rushing the passer, not a lot of depth there along their defensive line. I like Sealer, even though he's not having his best career year. Kenneth Grant's coming along, right? But not a lot of depth there. And then you look at their secondary, which was awful to start the season and just keeps getting worse with injuries. Jack Jones has kind of came on late in the offseason for them and has solidified the one side, but then no Rasul Douglas, who's kind of semi-solidified the other side. You have Ethan Bonner likely going in that spot, milk check. And then you have no real nickel. Like, they've been playing Minka in the nickel. They got Melon Fonwu. They've got Ashton Davis. They go to those three safety looks a lot. So the safeties play a ton, but Davis and Melon Fonwu are dinged. Are both questionable for this game. So I don't even know if they're playing in this game. So pass rush, I don't think will be Chop is doubtful. So I don't think Chop plays at all. John Robert comes in and says Chop is questionable. He's doubtful. Him and Sewell are doubtful. So to me, if they play, that's some shady, you know what? So, yeah, I don't know why doubtful exists on an injury report, by the way. If you're doubtful and you play, some eyebrows are raised. You've tried to trick some people, and that's shady. But when you look at it, like, the Bills should, I think, have time to throw today, unless Miami really throws some simulated creeper pressures or does something. I think the Bills should be able to handle that pass rush, at least from a on paper standpoint. And then you look at the secondary. It's a secondary that you think the Bills could exploit, but the guy on the boundary you think could exploit it. Palmer, LP all week after missing weeks with an ankle injury. What is he going to look like? If Josh Palmer is healthy, dude, give me a Josh Palmer game today. Give me a Josh Palmer game, right? Like, go out there and just unleash and rip 7-8 targets to Josh Palmer and get that dude cooking. Because I think I had Josh Palmer picked as either my wild card or my take me higher player of the game. No, it was wild card. I don't think he's taking higher yet, but I was my wild card player game in Atlanta because I thought this dude's about to pop off. Like, they're going to try to take the middle of the field away. And I thought he was going to until he got injured, unfortunately. So if you're the Buffalo Bills and he's good to go, feed that man, right? Let's have a Josh Palmer game, but we just don't know how effective he's going to be coming back from that injury. So that being said, what is the Bills' plan of attack on offense? Like, what should the Buffalo Bills be doing in this game? I think number one is you want to emphasize or have a plan for the blitz. No duh. Like, again, could Miami pivot and be like, well, didn't work for us last time, let's try something different? Or the Buffalo Bills are going to expect it, let's try something. Yeah, they could, right? But Miami's bread and butter seems to be the blitz this year, having to manufacture pressures. It's what seems to keep what little hope they have alive defensively. So to me, the Bills got to have a plan for that blitz, and that should be emphasizing the tight end and the running backs in the quick game, right? Miami is worst in EPA per target versus both the tight end and the running back. And the Bills have been kind of not inclined to pass the ball until last week to the running back out of the backfield. But I really do think that this could be a game where it's like, all right, let's change that. Like, let's get the running backs more involved. And I'm not even just talking about James Cook, because James Cook's dealing with that ankle. So maybe this is a game where you truly do running back by committee and try to get Ray Davis and Ty Johnson involved in the passing game, because the Dolphins struggle with that. Give them some dump offs, let them do some work, get some groove, get some confidence back, take some pressure off of Cook. Heck, maybe this is a game where James Cook only carries the ball 15 times and you try to really make it a committee approach at running back and get Ty Johnson more involved and get Ray Davis more involved and get them actual traditional touches on the ground. Now, if that doesn't work in the first half and this is still a tight game, go ride your dude if he's healthy enough to do so in James Cook. But I think I could see a realistic scenario here where the Bills come in with a personnel mindset and a personnel decision to go maybe try to really involve Ray Davis and Ty Johnson into the offense, acclimate them into the offense, both through the pass and the run. Now, if they just go out there and ride James Cook after a week where he's coming off an injury, I think that says a lot about how confident they feel in the rest of their running backs, right? Because I'm expecting the Bills, based on history, to do one thing: be cautious, give the guys some breaks, try to get more guys involved. If they just go ride James Cook again, it could just be them pivoting and learning and being like, our stars need to be stars, we need to ride them. Or it could just be like, we got no faith in these dudes behind James Cook. And at that point, again, right, like, once these injuries settle down, somebody give Frank Gore Jr. a shot. Because Ty Johnson had a better week last week, especially with that touchdown and making a few plays. But the running backs behind James Cook this year have not exactly been the most inspiring in the world. The second thing I want to talk about is, right? Or at least if Mike McDaniel is worth his salt, right? The two guys who are going to touch the ball the most on that Miami offense today are going to be Jalen Waddle and Devin Achane, right? Like, those are the two guys, or Achane, excuse me. Those are the two guys who are going to touch the rock the most. If I were him, I would feed those two dudes. I would make sure those two guys touch the ball like 30 times in this game between the two of them, 35 times between the two of them. Like, I would consistently feed them the ball because you're your best players. If you're the Buffalo Bills and Cook is a little dinged, and maybe I'm reading too much into this injury. I want to emphasize that. Feed Shakir, feed Kincaid. Like, duh. Can we get a combined? And maybe this is asking too much, but like, can you just half your targets go to those two alone? Get 20 targets in this game, 15, 20 targets in this game to Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid, right? Like, if Jamar Chase can have a game with like 19 targets, can we just get two players to do that? And especially with the blitz and the quick game, I know Miami's going to have answers and try to take Khalil Shakir away, but just keep feeding Khalil Shakir, getting the ball in his hands, letting him make plays after the catch. And then, again, a concerted effort to get Dalton Kincaid in the field. Maybe get on the field more. I know the Buffalo Bills are going to want to go heavy and going heavy is their advantage. And it's just, I feel like you got to find a way to get Dalton Kincaid on the field more. I feel like his statistics are already eye-poppingly good, and they're eye-poppingly good considering how little he's on the field. Like, we saw it last year. James Cook's statistics were disgustingly good, and he wasn't even on the field that much. Now, Dalton Kincaid's statistics are disgustingly good, and he's not even on the field that much. Is it going to take another offseason for the Buffalo Bills to figure out how to get him on the field more, and then the numbers blow up to like the rate that James Cook's blew up? I don't know. Like, will it happen? Will it ever happen? I don't know. But like, just find a way to get the ball in Dalton Kincaid and Khalil Shakir's hands in this game. Like, pretty simple stuff, in my opinion. So, and then the last thing really I have here for offense is Keon Coleman. If not now, when? Right? Like, we've had this discussion on the show over and over again. I think Keon Coleman is a fine depth receiver, wide receiver 4, playing that old Gabe Davis role when Gabe Davis was behind John Brown, Cole Beasley, Stephon Diggs. Like, that should have been his welcome to the NFL, was a wide receiver 4. And he should have been forced from day one to do the dirty work, like of being in those condensed formations and getting after it in the run game and returning punts and playing special. Like, I don't think he should have been handed the keys to the X receiver position and trotted out there from day one. I don't think he was ready for it mentally, emotionally, like from a maturity standpoint. We've seen those issues. And then obviously as a developed receiver. So I think the Bills failed Keon Coleman in a sense, a little bit, right? By not having a proper environment for him and a proper role for him and his development. But also it's on Keon too. So my question today is, when your boundary corners are Jack Jones and Ethan Bonner, and the top 2 pass rushers are Bradley Chubb and Matthew Judon, who are older, right? Like, if not now, when for Keon Coleman? Like, if Keon Coleman can't do more than his like 3 catches for like 18 yards and a couple of run blocks in this game, like, when is he ever going to have like a legit game in the NFL? Where the Bills are like, all right, we're going to go exploit a matchup, and Keon Coleman, you're the guy we're exploiting. We're going to use to exploit. Like, when's that going to come from? So eyes on Keon Coleman today to see if he can get involved more so than just being a part of the product. Can he go out there and be the product? Right? Like, so that'll be really interesting to see as well. And then last thing on my notes here, finish drives, right? Dolphins are a top 10 red zone defense. So if they can hold us to a bunch of field goals, it's going to keep them alive into the fourth quarter. And that's not something I think as Bills fans, we don't want to rely on a roughing the punter again to have to win this football game, right? We want this to be in hand by the fourth quarter, for both our sakes as fans and our blood pressure, and for the Buffalo Bills, right? So finishing drives, I think is going to be really important for the Buffalo Bills. Moving now to the Bills defense versus the Dolphins offense, I think there's a ton of stuff to keep an eye on as well. Obviously, let's start with the Dolphins offense and what the Dolphins offense looks like. Points, 20 points per game, which is 26th in the NFL. EPA per play, they are 26th, 23rd in the pass, 25th in the run. Third down percentage, they're 39%, which is 17th in the NFL. Red zone touchdowns, 58%, which is 17th in the NFL. Two of the season, 68% completions, 198 yards per game, 15 touchdowns, 11 picks, 25th in EPA per dropback. Only 7.7% throws deep, which is 28th in the league. Time to throw is 2.41 seconds, which is the fastest. 55% yards after catch share. A lot of his yards come from Yak, and his turnover worthy plays this year are at his third highest in the league, at 4.8%. So some encouraging statistics here for the Buffalo Bills. You'd think the way our defense has been playing, they should be able to handle this Dolphins offense, but you do look at some things from this Dolphins offense perspective. Number one screen team in the NFL at 17%. And they got some threats, some speed threats in Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane. They've got Washington as well, who is, I think, a good player, Malik Washington, but hasn't really had the big game yet. But he's a guy you get the ball in his hands. He's an explosive returner. That's going to provide some issues. You're going to have to make sure you're staying in front of him and wrapping up tackling. I was listening to Locked On Bills this week. They talked about expecting more 6 offensive line looks from Miami and getting those over the past couple of weeks to try to control the clock and slow the tempo of the game. I think that was a really good point. And Aaron Brewer is a very small center at 280, which I think you could take advantage of in some ways. But he's also a quick, nimble center. So getting out to the second level and getting his pads on guys like Terrell Bernard, et cetera, could be issues for the Buffalo Bills, especially with Achane's speed. So you've got to be aware of those type of runs as well. So that's Miami's offense. Let's take a look at the Buffalo Bills defense, because I think this is every week it seems like it's a new defense. So let's take a look at it. First of all, edge rusher, you have the huge addition in Javon Solomon, or you have a huge audition, for Javon Solomon and Landon Jackson. I'm worried about the pressure on an injured Bosa right now on his wrist. So if you're the Buffalo Bills, hopefully Solomon and Jackson step up today and Bosa doesn't have to sit there and play 70% of the snaps. Not something ideally you want to see against this type of opponent at this time of year. On the interior defensive line, I think it's going to just be Walker, Ogunjobi, Phillips, and Mathis again, like it was last week. Maybe you see Dequan Jones. I think Deion Walker is once again going to be key to keeping those linebackers clean. Don't let Achane get to the second level. And if he does, man, we got to work and continue to work on wrapping up and tackling all those various different things. At linebacker, you got your second week back of Bernard and Bolano. Maybe you see some more base, especially if Miami brings in that 6 offensive lineman more. So obviously Dorian Williams will play in base, and I think he's been playing really well in that base linebacker 4-3 position. But I'll tell you what, Dorian Williams to me is the sleeper. Maybe this is too Madden of me, but maybe Dorian Williams can fill some of that Michael Hoyt void, like mugging the A gaps, and sometimes he blitzes and sometimes he drops back. He's a big, powerful dude, and we've seen him pressure from the interior before, and he's not the best at finishing once he gets to the quarterback, but he definitely is pretty good at disrupting. So I think a guy like Dorian Williams maybe could play that role. Maybe not this week because you only got 4 guys to rotate at edge, but maybe Landon Jackson could get a shot there. He's got, I think, a prototype and a build where maybe he could do some things like attack from the interior and drop back into coverage a little bit, not a lot. Maybe not to the rate that Michael Hoyt was in that sort of joker role, but man, I just really I would hate to lose that Michael Hoyt role that the Buffalo Bills have sort of created with that defensive end, or maybe even a linebacker with Dorian Williams just attacking from the interior. At cornerback, Hairston versus Waddle is going to be cool because the Bills, you saw it last week with Xavier Worthy. You have that young, fast corner to go line up with other, young, fast players at the wide receiver position. So that matchup will be fun. We'll keep our eye out for that as well. But it'd be a lot more funner if, hey, Hairston go shadow Waddle and chase Waddle around. And then you have Christian Benford on the other side. So having Trey White on the other side, as much as I love Trey, at this point in his career, he provides a lot of cushion because he don't want to get beat deep. And tackling, even though it has improved, it's still a concern for him, right? So it's not as exciting when it's Trey White across from Maxwell Hairston as it is if it was Christian Benford, even though Benford hasn't had his best year, probably admittedly this year. It's still a lot more comforting to have him across from Maxwell Hairston than a Trey White. So it looks like this is the week the training wheels are going to come off for Maxwell Hairston. He's probably going to get full run at CB, mostly because probably Christian Benford is out. But I think you probably would have seen it even if Christian Benford was playing. How are the Bills going to attack the Dolphins defense? I think you're going to see a mix of packages again. The dime look has always seemingly had some success for the Bills against the Dolphins. Jamarcus Ingram has had some of his biggest games against Miami. Cam Lewis has always looked historically good against Miami, and he had a big week last week. You obviously have Jordan Poyer and Jordan Hancock, so you got that extra safety to play with. So I think the Bills got the tools to really mix and match what they're doing defensively based on what Miami is doing, and I think you'll see a mix of base and a mix of dime and a mix of nickel. The safety position, I think, is going to be key in this football game. Jordan Poyer knows Tua. Micah Hyde was in the building this week at practice, which I don't think was a coincidence, right? Those two have had so much success in their career, sort of disguising things against Tua, taking away Tua's first read, all those things. So maybe Micah Hyde was giving some ticks and tricks to the young guys like Cole Bishop and Jordan Hancock in the room this week with Jordan Poyer. So disguising coverage from the safety position needs to be key. And Miami's got deep speed, right? They've got Jalen Waddle. They've got Washington. So it's going to be interesting to see how much Hancock plays, how much they center field him, and his ability to center field could be tested, right? Like, so the Bills don't really have a center fielding safety. Maybe Jordan Hancock is that guy. And I think today could be a good test for him, depending on how much he does, in fact, play in this game. So that's what it looks like from a personnel standpoint. From a blueprint perspective, like, how do you attack Tua? It's the same as always, right? Like, a lot of disguises, as James St. Clair says. I expect a heavy dose of misdirection from Miami. I expect a heavy dose of Jalen Waddle. I expect a heavy dose of Devon Achane. Tackle. Keep everything in front of you. Wrap up. Like, the Bills are going to have to focus on that, getting a lot of guys, a lot of helmets to the football, taking away to his first read. He cannot just be pass. He cannot just make the pass an extension of the run game. If you let Tua sit there and he's 16 of 19 by the end of the first half, and their passing game is just an extension of their running game, it's probably not boding well for you in terms of putting the game away in the second half, right? It's probably still a game. So if you're the Buffalo Bills, taking away to his first read and doing all those good things. And like I said, continue the evil genius stuff. I truly believe Sean McDermott is the shadow DC. I think he took that responsibility away from Bobby Babich about halfway through the Atlanta Falcons game. Nothing else really makes all that much sense to me. Mixing in that 4-3, mixing in that nickel, mixing in that dime, mixing in those 5-man pressures with simulated pressures and A-gap blitzing. Like, just keep doing what you've been doing defensively to throw teams off. Be aggressive. Take it to the offenses as opposed to letting the offenses take it to you and reading and reacting. I think the Bills have shown more aggression the last 2 weeks, and I don't think it's a surprise that the results have followed. So if you're the Buffalo Bills, continue to do that defensively. And then, of course, special teams. Miami's solid on special teams. It looks like, at least from a box score perspective. Riley Patterson statistically looks fine. Jake Bailey, when you look at his EPA, he's right up there with some of the best punters in the league. And then they got Washington returning kicks and punts, and he's got some juice. So preventing hidden yards is going to be key for the Bills today. Hopefully Sam Franklin and those guys can prevent those hidden yards. So that's it for the matchups. So now, time for our pregame superlatives. All right, as always, we start with our Take Me Higher player of the game. This is a star player, a cornerstone player on this Bills roster, not named Josh Allen, that needs to step up in order for the Buffalo Bills to have success this Sunday. All right, since Dave is not here, I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to use two players for my Take Me Higher player of the game. And those two players are Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid. The combination of those two, Miami likes to blitz. They have shown that they want to blitz us a lot. So their second level is banged up. Miami probably is going to be force feeding Achane and Waddle in this game. So to me, if you're the Buffalo Bills, let's do the same, right? Let's feed our dudes, our top dogs. Khalil Shakir should be the answer for a lot of the blitzes, even though Miami might be expecting it. The Bills still find success getting Khalil Shakir against the blitz as the safety valve. Dalton Kincaid should be one of the primary weapons down the field, attacking these ding safeties, getting him on. Honestly, get him on a corner. Get on a corner. I don't care. Get him on a corner. Like go and attack, right? So if you're the Buffalo Bills, we should be force feeding our top dogs in Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid today. I want to see somewhere between 12 and 20 targets combined between the two. I think we'll see closer to 12, right? I would really love it if we hit that 12 benchmark. If you're the Buffalo Bills, 20 might be pushing it. I might be a little mad at me, but it is what it is. I want to see those two guys fed the ball. I think they're our best players. Next up is our wild card player of the game. All right. My wild card player of the game is Dorian Williams. I think, like I said, I was listening to Locked On Bills this week, and they're talking about how Miami's going more 6 offensive linemen. They want to limit possessions. I think that means Dorian Williams could possibly see the field more, have more opportunities to see the field for the Buffalo Bills. I think he can have a role as a base linebacker. I think he has some juice in that Michael Hoyt role. I really do think the Buffalo Bills, there's things about Dorian Williams' game that you can take advantage of and you can use to your advantage. I think they should do it, and they should try to get him on the field, which is a far cry from what I was saying earlier this season, because I do believe as a every down linebacker, there still are some issues with him in coverage, but he's a strong dude. He's an aggressive dude. He's sound at tackling. Unleash him moving forward. Unleash him attacking the ball. I don't necessarily want to see him as a traditional linebacker dropping into coverage a ton, but get that man along the line of scrimmage, get his nose around the football, let him make plays, right? So to me, my wild card player of the game is going to be Dorian Williams. And up now, our Respect You player of the game. To me, this one's pretty simple. And again, I'm going to cheat a little bit because Dave's not here in take 2. Devon Achane and Jalen Waddle, right? If Mike McDaniel is worth his salt, these two guys are going to be touching the ball 30 to 40 times in this game between the two of them. Obviously, Achane as a running back is going to touch the ball more, but just getting the ball in their hands, trying to create space for them, trying to attack a Buffalo Bills defense that historically struggles to keep things in front of them, struggles to tackle, etc. I know it's been better, but struggles historically to do so. Getting the ball into those guys' hands and letting them make plays. Pretty simple stuff. Those are the two best players remaining on the Miami Dolphins football team. Those are the two guys that everyone, when all the insiders today were reporting who almost got dealt to the deadline. And Achane and Waddle were in all those articles. There wasn't very many other Miami Dolphins in those articles, and that's because these are the two best players. So I respect you, player of the game, Achane. I'm never going to not get that right. I'm going to screw it up on multiple occasions. And Waddle. Those are my respect you, player of the games. And now it's time for a little pregame hot takery here. All right, it is time to have a fire sale. And as usual, people like to tell me my takes aren't spicy enough. So I need people to know that this is a hot take. Don't clip this and be like, Judge said this, Judge said no. Should be having a little fun here. All right. I'm going to go Dalton Kincaid, 10 plus catches, 100 plus yards, 3 touchdowns. Oh, yeah. My bold prediction this game is that my hot take this game is that you have a career breakout game for Dalton Kincaid. Like, the league is talking about Dalton Kincaid this week. Like, hey, you've seen this guy who's been lighting it up despite limited touches. Oh, look what he did when they fed him the rock. So I'm going to go 10 plus catches, 100 plus yards, 3 touchdowns, career breakout game for Dalton Kincaid. He's the alpha in the room against the banged up secondary. I want to see a blood in the water type of situation where the Buffalo Bills go and exploit it. Like, go do it. Like, go show me you can take your best player. You can take a weak defense. And you can just exploit the crap out of them. Go do that with Dalton Kincaid today. So that is my hot take of the game. And last but not least, let's go back to the future with a little pregame prediction. All right. My final score prediction in this one is Bills 31, Dolphins 23. I think the Bills take an early lead in this game, but I do think possessions are somewhat limited due to design and game plan of this football game. I think it's close-ish most of the way, maybe more so than Buffalo Bills fans want, even though the score will be close-ish. I don't think we'll ever feel uncomfortable, even though us as Bills fans, we probably feel uncomfortable a lot during games, even when we have like 2-score leads, just the way it is as a Bills fan, right? But I think Miami makes a late surge and makes the score look closer than it appears. So I will go Bills 31, Dolphins 23, even though I think that's one of those scores where it's, again, closer than it appears. Jessica Tennis comes in and says 27-17 Bills. No bones about it. It says 38-10 Bills. So I love all that. Thank you guys for joining me today. Apologies if I couldn't get to your comments as much. Kind of difficult to maneuver the notes and talking and all those things. Carl Thoman coming in with a great prediction. Says 42-13. Let's hope so. For the sake of all Bills fans at the game today, it's a nice little blowout. Everyone has a lot of fun. But I do apologize if I didn't get your comments in the comment section. You can leave it after the show's done being live. You can leave that comment again, and I'll go back in over the course of the morning, and I will respond to people. Don't forget that the Cover One post game show is live following the game. Greg, Aaron always do a great job. Our next show is tomorrow night at 9 p.m. So you have that to look forward to as well. And then, of course, share. If you could, please, super appreciate it. If you think that other people will enjoy what we are doing here at the Air Raid Hour, number one, smash that like button. Number two, click that share button and share it. Social media, text message, whatever. And then 3, leaving comments after the show is done being live. That helps us boost the algorithm a little bit as well. So want to thank you guys so much for joining us this morning, or joining me this morning. I'm just so used to saying us. But Dave is here in spirit. We'll be back tomorrow night. And until next time, go Bills.
Thank you for watching tonight's episode of the Air Raid Hour. Make sure to hit that like button on the way out. If you are catching the show on demand, leave a reply in the comment section and we will respond over the course of the week. You can always listen to every episode next day on all major podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify, by searching Air Raid Buffalo. Thank you for your continued support, and as always, go Bills!